everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Journey of a Disability Warrior, the roads we've traveled. Today's guests are Lee and Michael Monroe, and they join me to share their family's unique story in hopes of inspiring others going through similar journeys. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here.
All right, we can get started by having you both tell me a little bit about yourselves and a little bit about your family.
Well, I am a stay-at-home mom for the most part, have been since we had Connor. He stayed pretty sick as an infant, and then we obviously ended up right after his second birthday having him diagnosed, and he had autism. So I've been able to get him where he needs to be as far as therapies go. And my husband is a local dentist here in Tupelo, so we've been very fortunate that I could tend to him as needed and get him where he needed to be.
Tell me a little bit, I know you talked on it, but tell me just a little bit more about that, getting the diagnosis and the journey leading to that, and just kind of how that was for your family.
Connor was 18 months old, and he didn't have any language. He did everything on time. He cooed, babbled, walked, rolled over early. But he just never developed that language. He also did a bunch of repetitive behaviors and had a very restrictive interest, still does, to vehicles, any cars, anything with wheels. And it just set off some alarms, but we kind of had in the back of our mind, Michael was a late talker, maybe it would develop. And I guess it was right before his second birthday, that October, we had him diagnosed locally, or excuse me, we had him evaluated locally. And they said he did have some autism tendencies, but we could redirect him as far as his repetitive behaviors went, but we still didn't have the language. So we got on the list for speech therapy. And that Christmas, he turned 2 November 26th, and that was 2014, and no, 2015, sorry. And that Christmas was rough. We were at my parents' house in Meridian. He was doing a lot of repetitive behaviors, and it just really got alarming and concerning. We went to Jackson and saw Michael's dad and some family friends and had lunch with some, and we discussed just the behaviors. They had children that had disabilities as well. And she told me, if he's not talking in 6 months, I want you to have him evaluated. I want you to go see Sheila Williamson in South Haven and see what's going on. And so she was a great resource for us, because, you know, when you start this journey, you kind of feel alone. I mean, you don't know what to do or really who to reach out to, but we're very blessed that we had friends like that in our circle. And so I said, in 6 months, I'm going to have a newborn. I was pregnant with our daughter. And so I called. I was told we wouldn't be able to get in until, I think, March. And then they had a cancellation late January, and we took it and we started the diagnosis process. And it took about 6 weeks. We went, met with Dr. Williamson. 2 weeks later, went back for the evaluation. And then 2 weeks after that, Michael and I went up for his diagnosis.
And Michael, can you tell me a little bit about what you recall most from that time period? Just anything that you that stands out to you that you would like to share?
Yeah, it was just the repetitive behavior. He would run back and forth along like a fixed item, like a table or a TV stand or something, and put his face as close as he could and just run back and forth. So we kind of, back of our minds, kind of knew there was something going on.
Now, what advice would you give to other families that are in this early stage and seeking a diagnosis? So what advice would you give to them?
It's one of those things where, you never really want to hear your child may have a disability, but my thing is just go get it ruled out to be safe. Or if they do have something, the earlier they can start therapy, the sooner they can get on the track to better behavior or better outcomes.
Tell me a little bit about Connor's relationship with both of you and also with his sister.
Oh, well, for the longest, he was a mama's boy, and he still loves to snuggle his mama. And he says, snuggle mama. But he's really taken to his daddy now. He's interested in a lot of what his daddy does. Daddy ball. Michael's a good golfer, and so he likes to watch daddy ball. He knows which channel it is on the television and will turn it on for him at times. Connor is the most loving, affectionate child, and we're so blessed by that, because a lot of children with autism don't want to be touched and also like to be to themselves. But he really loves being around people, especially his family. He loves his little sister, and sometimes she drives him crazy, but they have a really sweet relationship, and they're going through this phase right now just because cognitively he is, behind. And so they're playing, like right now they have signs on both of their rooms. We got a puppy a couple of weeks ago, and so they have been playing vet, and they have the open sign and the vet sign, and so they like to pretend play. They have a sweet relationship, and we're very thankful for that.
And Michael, what would you like to share about the bond that you and Connor have?
Yeah, like she was saying, it's definitely grown the last few years, and he pretty much requests me to take him to school in the mornings if I can, and
Put him to bed at night.
and read a story and all that. So I love it. He used to not really go to me much, so now it's kind of the other way around.
I think so much of it was I took him everywhere. I took him to school in the morning because he went to preschool and he didn't go till 9. So Michael was obviously at work at that time. And I took him to his therapies. But now Michael can drop him off on his way to work because he can go at 7:30, 7:45. And so their relationship, just riding daddy's car, or I mean, if we're going somewhere and we're taking 2 vehicles, he's jumping in the car with him. They've really got a special bond that's grown over the past couple of years.
That's awesome. How has parenting a child with autism impacted your family?
Parenting in general is difficult. I mean, it's not an easy ride for anybody. Things have been different, obviously. Birthday parties, there were times when he was little, and we were so appreciative because everybody was always so, and still is, very inclusive to him. But there were times that we would get an invite and I would just be like, we can't do it. I mean, it was just too much. We would go, we would have a meltdown, and it got to the point where it wasn't even worth the stress and anxiety that it caused us and him, because big groups were a lot for him, especially in those younger toddler years. I mean, things have been different. We don't travel a whole lot. We recently tried Disney for the first time, and he did very well. And thankfully they have a resource for children with disabilities, so we would not have been able to do it without that. But I mean, I would definitely say things are different. I mean, we going out to eat dinner, we didn't do that for a long time. But now he's adapted. I mean, we would just test the waters here and there. And as he's gotten older, he has adapted more. I mean, it's gotten easier. It's still not, a breeze, but I mean, he's definitely come a long way, and we're very blessed by that.
What do you both feel are common misconceptions about persons with autism?
Well, one thing, and I know nobody means this negatively, but I have so many people say, well, he doesn't look like he has autism. And, and I'm like, well, autism isn't a look. And I couldn't, if you were to do a lineup of children, I wouldn't be able to tell you which one had autism unless they were doing some behavior that would be indicative of that. But he and I tell people, I'm like, if you try to carry on a conversation with him, you say, Connor, how was your day today? He might tell you good, but he's not gonna, when he gets in the car in the afternoon, what did you do at school today? I kind of have to say, did you do math today? Yes. Did you play on the playground? He's not going to give me a full sentence back of, well, I played with Johnny, and that sort of communication. And I do feel like a lot of times, especially when he was younger, I mean, I'll never forget trying to go to the grocery store. I mean, that's one thing people probably take advantage of, but it was so difficult because he would have a complete meltdown over if he saw a car or anything that that might spark his interest. And you do get weird looks. People think, oh, well, she's being aggressive with him or whatever, but I'm dragging him, trying to get him, especially now he's very heavy. And he had not done that for a long time until very recently. And it was difficult. I was in Hobby Lobby with him and he spotted a taxi, and I called Michael and I was like, we have not had one of those in a minute. And it was hard, but do get weird looks. And I think my biggest thing is if I see that happen with another mom, I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's fine. I've been there, but it's just the understanding and people being more open and more compassionate to not only him, but us as parents, because we're doing the best we can.
Is there anything you would like to add to that, just from your experiences and dealing with other people's misconceptions, or that the way that they may treat Connor? Just if you have anything to add.
She pretty much nailed it. I mean, I get that from time to time too. He seems to be doing great. He doesn't seem to have anything wrong with. They'll say wrong with him, and he doesn't. But that's pretty much it.
What do you feel is the most rewarding aspect of parenting a child with autism?
Oh man, it is just in general the most rewarding thing. If you would have told us 6 years ago when we first had him diagnosed about this time that he would be doing what he's doing now, in the back of my mind, I kind of hoped and thought, well, maybe he'll phase out of this, or he'll adapt and get the things, hang of things quicker. And it took time. It took a long time. And then at 3.5, he started talking and he developed language. He started addressing us by our name, or by mama and dada. And I mean, just every little milestone, whether it was talking, using a utensil, things that most kids obviously were already doing. Every little thing, being able to go to the grocery store and not have a meltdown. All of those things are so rewarding. And they're things that, I do take advantage of with my daughter. That, I mean, she can walk in, and I mean, now she's got an attitude right now. She wants what she wants when she wants it. But for the most part, we could do those things with her, and it was just so much different. And you do kind of take advantage of it. But I mean, overall, just every little milestone, I mean, especially where he's come in school, it's been very rewarding just seeing how far he has come just in the past really 3 years has been a huge game changer for us and for him.
So Michael, I want to ask you this. What are your hopes for Connor's future?
I mean, just to continue with what he's done. He's come so far. We'd love to be able to have him be completely unassisted and live, his own personal life one day. But if he can't, then we'll just take him as far as he can, just to be there and support him, and just know that we always have his back, and I'm
probably not going to let him move out, but we want. I mean, obviously, we want him to have an independent life if that's in the cards. We've still got a long road until we get to those years, thankfully. But the way he's come just in the past couple of years, I feel like the sky's the limit with him.
Now, I know that Connor is 8 now, but can you take me back to that early years, which is the birth to 3, which is early intervention years. So tell me a little bit about the early intervention and receiving the therapies. Just speak on that a little bit about how that was for your family.
Well, yes, early intervention is key. And I I knew that. I worked for a company in Jackson that provided services to children with disabilities, and so insurance services. So that was one big thing that I learned long before we had children, was pushing that. And so when we had those concerns at a year and a half without the language and stuff, it, I knew we needed to figure out what was going on. He was in a private preschool setting, which I think was very helpful and instrumental to him. It kept him in a routine for the most part when he wasn't sick. And he got to be around typically developing peers. And I feel like that was a big, benefit to him. But then getting that speech therapy, and then we jumped right into ABA as soon as we got his diagnosis. I did did get sick during my pregnancy with our daughter, and I was traveling for ABA with him to South Haven, and so we discontinued those services and because I couldn't travel and didn't have anybody else to take him. So we discontinued the ABA for a little while. We doubled up on speech. We had him in occupational therapy. We started in 2 different occupational therapies. We started back doing ABA, stopped in I think that March, and started back in the next January. They opened a satellite branch in Corinth, which was closer. So we went every week to Corinth and did ABA, and he was in about that time, it was right around 3. He was in speech therapy at our school district, Tupelo Public School District. He was in, I think 2 or 3 other, he was in 8 therapies at one time. And I feel like that 3-year-old year was a big, big year for him. Like I said, he developed the language at 3.5. He was potty trained. I mean, he just really blossomed during that time. When you say, I mean, that was a big time where we saw a lot of progress with him.
Tell me a little bit about the transition from early intervention into getting into the school district.
We actually kept him at our private preschool, First United Methodist. He had been there since he was 9 months old. And we just felt it was a smaller, just small, very nurtured private preschool. And so we kept him there. They went above and beyond to accommodate him. They did trainings. I mean, they were just phenomenal. And I give them a lot of credit in his progress as well. We did kindergarten there, and that was in 2019, 2020. Then COVID shut everything down in March of that year. And then in August, August 2020, he started at the Tupelo Public School District.
A little bit about what your experience has been like with his teachers and where he is now.
With every transition with these kids, or any child in general, I mean, it's a big transition. It was a weird year with it, face mask and it being a COVID year. But man, we were blown away. The first, I'd say 2 to 3 weeks were pretty rough. His teacher communicated with me. She was wonderful. We talked to a psychologist. She got some supportive folks from the Autism Center to get in there and assist with aiding the teachers and resources to be able to help him, also working with his behaviors. At that time, he was going to the Autism Center here. And then after those first couple of weeks, she said, give it 3 weeks. I think you'll see a huge difference. And sure enough, I mean, she pretty much like hit the nail on the head every time. And I mean, he just blossomed. I mean, he's on honor roll. He was student of the month. He's done the same thing this year. I mean, his teacher, we have been blessed by wonderful teachers, and the school has been fabulous. We have great special education teachers. Last year, he was pulled out for all of his testing. And this year, I guess it was probably in October, early November, they would pull him out for his test. And he told his teacher, who's precious, she texted me, she said, "You're never going to believe this." He told me, he said, "I was getting ready to do everybody's spelling test." I said, "Miss Davis is going to come," she said, "Miss Davis is going to come get you in a minute, Connor." He goes, "No, Connor, do it here." And he took his spelling test in the classroom and made 100 on it. And it was just, that was a huge, something you would never really think would be that big of a deal. But the fact that he sees his peers doing that, he wanted to do that himself. And he's taken most of his test in the classroom now, which we're thrilled about. And we both said, like, we're not worried about a letter grade with him. The fact that he can sit there and complete that task, that's just as important, if not, I mean, more important to us.
So Michael, tell me a little bit about how you give Connor praise for the wonderful things that he's doing. How do you make him feel special?
It's
His folder in the afternoon.
yeah. So every day when he gets home, our school district, I'm sure most do, have a color-coded behavior program. So we just always reward him with when he gets home purple. So if he'll get the excellent reward 5 days in a row, sometimes we'll take him to Walmart or Dollar Tree and get him like a little dollar car or whatever. But he gets home purple more, 99% of the days. He's really
But
done well.
he's so proud. First thing he does when he gets in my car in the afternoon is, "Mama, look." I mean, he's not even got his seatbelt on before he's showing me that folder. When he gets home in the evenings, he goes, gets his backpack, back out, gets his folder out and says, "Daddy, look," every night, and has pretty much this whole school year. But that's something that a lot of people don't like color charts, but that's something he responds to. And we tried to come up with early on. We have not done the trips to Walmart and Dollar Tree lately, because he just wants to get on purple. But early on, we were trying to figure out a way to motivate him, not bribe him. I talked to a psychologist about it. She said, "We're not bribing him." She said, "You go to work, so you get paid. You do things, so you're rewarded." And so she said, let's try that with him. And so sure enough, he responded to it. But he's so proud to show him. And sometimes we'll call and tell him, like, he got on purple today, and he just is proud of it.
Yeah.
Now, switching gears, what are your go-to strategies for dealing with stress and getting organized for IEP meetings?
I actually meant to grab my binder because I was going to show you. But honestly, the school district has been so good working with us. And I mean, they pretty much say, "This is what we feel like he needs to do." There have been some times where, like when he did his initial testing, that sort of thing, where we say, "Okay, we need to actually have him tested on a touchscreen device." So they have done very well with working with us to make those changes as needed. As I was told early on by Leslie Duncan, who you work with, and several others, I mean, an IEP is a working document, and we could change it and do things that we needed to do as we needed to do them. And the school district has been great working with us in that sense, and making accommodations where they're needed.
Tell me a little bit about your experience working with the Mississippi Parent Training and Information Center, utilizing our trainings and our resources.
When I worked in Jackson, I got to know Pam Dollar. And when we moved up here, I got to know Leslie Duncan, who is wonderful. And when we started the whole IEP process, I reached out to Leslie. She provided me with some books that were very resourceful. We have been blessed in the sense where we didn't have to have an advocate come in and attend an IEP meeting with us. They have worked with us very well with Tupelo Public School District, but just having that resource for parents, I mean, whether it's here or in any district, because you're not educated on how to maneuver the whole process. So it's beneficial having you guys for the state, so as a resource to so many parents like us.
What does being an advocate mean to you?
I think, honestly, if we could just give hope and even be a resource for other families that are walking this journey, that's the most important thing to me. you know, all these kids are just incredible. And, God bless us with an amazing little boy. And I just want to share his story and give hope, because if you would have told us 6 years ago that we would be, or he would be where he is right now, I probably would have been like, I doubt it, but, and I didn't have that hope then. It was a scary time. It was a lot of emotions. But we put one foot in front of the other, and here he is, shocking us all. So, I mean, we just want to be a resource and help anybody that we can with our story, and provide resources. We have a lot of resources in Northeast Mississippi. Starkville has a wonderful program. We've got some here in Tupelo, Oxford, Corinth, South Haven, and us personally, if we can ever do anything to help or just be a listening ear. I have parents reach out to me that I've never laid eyes on Facebook, just because they've seen a post or heard our son's name. And I think that's one of the most rewarding things to me, is being able to help others. Michael, like I said, he's a dentist, and he sees several patients with autism because he understands how they operate and how they behave, and he's very soft spoken, as you can tell, and so he's very calm and nurturing to those children.
How do you both plan to instill that Connor has the skills necessary to be his own self advocate?
Well, I think continuing in the path that he's in right now, we keep him socialized with typically developing peers, or typical peers. And, we talked about it some back this summer and talked about it several times. But I think my biggest concern as his mother and him as his father is somebody making fun of him or hurting his, or him not even knowing that somebody is being ugly to him. I just don't want that to ever happen to him. He's just so innocent and pure at heart. We'll do everything we can to help him advocate for himself. We want him to be independent. But I think it's one of those things where him being surrounded by a kind and loving group of friends, which he has at school, and growing up with those kids will be of huge impact to him as well.
What advice would you give parents that are speaking with their children about interacting and engaging with children with autism and disabilities?
Well, we have been blessed when he was in preschool and even now. I think the parents were very open with their children. A lot of times I'd have kids that would say, Connor doesn't talk to me. And I said, well, just keep talking to him because he may eventually. And I'll never forget a little boy in the 3-year-old classroom at the school. I walked in one day to pick him up for therapy, and they said, Connor said car today. And I said, did he? And I said, well, what did you say back? He's like, good job, Connor. And he, like, all those kids were just so motivating, and his little cheerleaders. And the kids now in his class, I've been able to be there a good bit and get to know some of them, and they're all just little like cheerleaders for him. They love him, and he loves them. But definitely educating your children that, yeah, he may not carry on a conversation or may do things a little differently, but everybody's different in their own way. And I just don't think it's something that can't be talked about with children. We've had a lot of conversations recently with our daughter. She's 5 and she's pretty advanced and independent for her age. And we've talked to her about it. Why does he do this? Well, Bubba is a little bit different. She calls it autism. We have a little trouble with the actual word, but she's learning, that just because he acts this way or does this particular behavior is not wrong. That's just something, that's the way his mind works, and we're all wired differently. But I think that that's something that like all children kind of need to be aware of.
Just try to let your kids know that everybody's a little different, and that's okay. Everybody's unique. So just try to let your kids be as open-minded as they can, and have some compassion for everybody.
Tell me a little bit about your recent award being named Parent of the Year for the Tupelo Public Schools. Tell me a little bit about that.
I was very shocked and completely honored and humbled. Each school has a Parent of the Year, and I'm the PTO president for Thomas Street Elementary, which is where Connor's at, and our daughter Ann Tucker will be there next year. And then from there, each parent goes into the running for the school district's Parent of the Year. I was not expecting that when they invited us to the ceremony last week, but or to the board meeting. But anyway, I've done a lot this year, but I couldn't have done it without all the other PTO members and moms that are willing to help. We do fundraisers where we can provide activities for the kids, whether it be a Halloween carnival or just different events or resources that are needed. We actually, the special needs teacher there at the school wanted to renovate the sensory room. And it was like a bunch of people had to come in. I mean, we did the hands-on work. He helped me paint, and I did all the organizing and all that. But we had parents that ordered stuff from our Amazon wish list. We had the district that paid for mirrors and paint through SPED funds, and then we had private donors that sent money and that allowed us to get all of the equipment and stuff that we needed. And so that was a big blessing. And that can be used not only for the special education children, but also all kids for positive reinforcement and just a decompression room, that sort of thing. It's very rewarding. I've loved being up there. I love seeing all the kids. And I love working with the teachers and building those relationships and also giving back to them because they do so much for all of these kids. I was very honored.
And Michael, what were your thoughts when your wife was awarded this awesome honor?
Just mighty proud of her. She puts in a lot of time, and it was definitely well deserved.
That's good. So thank y'all both so much for coming on today and sharing your family stories. And I just think, the message that you have to give is so important. And I know it can really help others who are in the early stages of their journeys. So again, thank you both. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for having us.